You have breaking news, don't you, huh?
Thank you.
You always have breaking news, Ainsley.
Right.
Sean's going to be very disappointed that we're not doing it on his show.
Good morning. I hope you're taking care of yourself in the wake of all of the chaos that surrounds us. Donald Trump was just on Fox News, and he announced that a suspect in the assassination against Charlie Kirk has been caught, is in custody. And right now, they haven't released the names as of this very moment that I'm recording, but the reports are in that the suspect's name is Tyler Robinson, who is a 22-year-old native of Utah. I don't know that this is correct at all. These are absolutely fluid moments. And when you have an FBI led by Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, absolutely feckless and skillless in their respective profession, in their appointment, who knows? Who knows? It could absolutely be wrong, and we need to proceed with caution. But what I want to talk about briefly is Donald Trump turning the entire fiasco, his appearance on Fox News, into some kind of a weird reality show where he comes on and announces that I don't want to get anybody sued. I don't want to get Fox News or myself sued. So we'll be careful. But the information I have right now is that we have a suspect in custody.
Can I always say, I think, just to protect us all, and so Fox doesn't get sued and we all don't get sued and everything else. But I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him.
Right
in
now.
Custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job. You know, getting somebody that you start off with absolutely nothing. And we started off with a clip that made him look like an ant that was almost useless. We just saw there was somebody up there. And so much work has been done over the last 2.5 days. You know, it's amazing, actually, when you start off with that and then all of a sudden you get lucky or talent or whatever it is. But
just dealing with an important issue, someone he considered close and a friend and a stalwart, someone they're trying to turn into a martyr, an important person in the conservative movement, and they're treating it as though it's a reality show. And this next clip really is, it should just nail down the lack of seriousness with which they're taking this issue, the lack of respect and dignity that they want to offer to Charlie Kirk, the racist, white nationalist bigot, their pal. Because here, Donald Trump's acting as though, Sean Hannity's going to be really mad that I broke the news here. And you can see palpable uncomfortableness on the part of Ainsley Earhart and the beady-eyed Brian Kilmeade. She tries to cut off Trump and say, well, he's actually very appreciative. I'm sure he'd be very appreciative of the cops because no one thinks like Donald Trump. No one's like, damn it. I wish they would have announced it on my show. That's the most important things. The ratings.
Always subject to be corrected, but you know, I'm just giving you, based on what I'm hearing, they'll give you a much more active. I just heard about it 5 minutes before I walked in. As I'm walking in, they said, looking real good. They have the person that they wanted. So you have breaking news, don't you, huh?
Thank you.
You always have breaking news, Ainsley.
Right.
Sean's going to be very disappointed that we're not doing it on his show.
He'll be very thankful and appreciative of the police officers that got this guy.
They did a great job, everybody worked together. Pam Bondi is incredible, by the way.
We are in a hellscape of a timeline. This is the president of the United States, someone who's supposed to be, I mean, there's the nickname, the moniker, the colloquial, the presidents have been referred to as the consoler in chief. When natural disasters strike, there are countless images of presidents of the United States holding citizens in an embrace, comforting them. Donald Trump does not have that in it. Donald Trump is a sociopath, a psychopath. He does not have the ability to commiserate with someone, to empathize with someone. And this next clip, and we'll end it here, is more evidence of that than maybe anything you've ever seen. And it's they're asking Donald Trump, when did you find out about Charlie Kirk? And he takes 6 words on Charlie Kirk and then pivots to the ballroom that he's having installed. That's what's most important to him. That's the thing that's top of mind, is dealing with architects, dealing with the building of a gaudy, ostentatious, idiotic ballroom that's going to cost nearly $250 million.
He was very hurt when he saw this, but I mean, everybody was. Oh, when I heard it, I was in the midst of, building a great, for 150 years, they've wanted a ballroom at the White House, right? They don't have a ballroom. They have to use tents on the lawn for President Xi when he comes over. If it rains, it's a wipeout. And so I was with the architects and with design. It's going to be incredible. And they came in, they said, Charlie Kirk is dead. I didn't know what they meant. I said, what do you mean dead? Charlie Kirk was shot. And they thought he was dead because it was so horrific, And I said, dead?
They weren't asking about the ballroom, Donald Trump. We don't need to know what necessitated you feeling like you need some gold-clad ballroom, dipshit. Look, I'm not crying over Charlie Kirk. I didn't shed a tear over Charlie Kirk. I'm not sad about Charlie Kirk. I feel bad for his wife and kids. I feel bad for the position the country is in now, with disparate militia groups now rising up, with dipshits on TikTok and Twitter putting their videos with tears flowing and rage emitting from them. I'm nervous about the future. Donald Trump has none of that. Donald Trump has none of that.
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. The radicals on the left are the problem, and they're vicious and they're horrible.
Even before Charlie Kirk was assassinated on a college campus in Utah on the 10th of September, our country was mired by right-wing extremism. It wasn't the inciting incident, the killing of a racist, white supremacist bigot, Charlie Kirk. That's not what sparked what likely is going to befall this country. For over a decade, there has been serious concern on the part of federal authorities, federal agencies, intelligence agencies, about the threat of domestic terror at the hands of militia groups and right-wing provocateurs and conspiracy theorists and just general psychosis that has gripped the Republican Party and the conservative movement. And when you add in a president that likes to fiddle with that, stoke that violence, stoke those passions, legitimize those conspiracy theorists, it just makes things exponentially worse, orders of magnitude worse. All this is self-evident, right? Today, Donald Trump went on to Fox and Friends with beady-eyed Brian Kilmeade and Ainsley Earhardt. I always love to play this clip. We talk about Ainsley Earhardt.
I do want to say that it is because we protect the rights of the minority, and listen, we have separation of church and state in this country.
What about the majority?
Okay, the majority.
I'm so tired of protecting the minority. What about the majority?
Okay, the majority.
I'm so tired of protecting the minority.
Yeah, that Ainsley Earhardt. She's so tired of protecting the minority. Again, radicals, all this is, these are the mainstream figures of the conservative movement. Well, Ainsley Earhardt asked Donald Trump about, and I love the just giving the game away with their language. She says, we, meaning Republicans, conservatives, because she's not a journalist after all. We have radicals on the right as well. How do we fix this country? She says. And Donald Trump absolutely, abjectly, outrightly dismisses radical, violent extremists on the right and condemns any radicals on the left. A president of the United States, of all of us, a man who should be cautioning individuals who are his followers, who are his adherents, who are members of the Donald Trump cult. He should be telling them, hey, cooler heads should prevail. Let's wait to see where we are, what the motivations were of the shooter. Let's find out. But most of all, let's be peaceful. Let's come together as a nation. One with another. Let's link arms. Let's embrace one another and find common ground. That is not what he does. Watch this, I would like to say remarkable moment from Donald Trump, but there is nothing shocking about it. There is certainly nothing fucking surprising about the words of our inciter-in-chief, Donald Trump.
Radicals on the right as well. We have radicals on the left. People are watching all of these videos and cheering. Some people are cheering that Charlie was killed. How do we fix this country? How do we come back together?
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. They don't want to see crime.
Worried about the border.
They're saying, we don't want these people coming in. We don't want you burning our shopping centers. We don't want you shooting our people in the middle of the street. The radicals on the left are the problem. And they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy. Although they want men and women sports, they want transgender for everyone, they want open borders.
Did the radicals on the right who attempted to overthrow the United States government during an armed, violent insurrection against the country, did they just want to not see crime? Also, this coming from a man who lies about crime statistics, who acts as though he said today in this interview that Chicago is worse than Afghanistan. The guy who acts like DC, which is now totally safe, was a hellscape before he invaded the city with the military that is currently being occupied by the military. The city I live in, the city I dine in, the city my wife walks unaccompanied at night by herself in. Feeling safe. All of its lies. But he whips his fearful, weak, all of these conservative men who act like mighty alpha warriors, strong, steely-eyed dudes who can't even take the subway, who are too afraid to walk in, not to the metro subway, but into a Subway sandwich shop, not armed to the teeth, just in case. He promotes this. He infuses this ideology into them. And they're ready. They are ready to take action. The radical, violent, extremist wing of the Republican Party, which is growing, it is overtaking as a percentage of members of the party. Just disgusting. And just moments after he said that, he shifted in, he pivoted in, talking about the same lies, the same conspiracy theories that incited the first attempt to overthrow the United States government violently, to reinsert extra-constitutionally, extra-democratically Donald Trump back into power after having lost an election to Joe Biden by 7+ million votes. Watch this. The uniter-in-chief, the President of the United States, giving a clarion call to radicals all over the country that it's okay. I couldn't care less, you just heard him say. Watch this.
Doesn't even know it.
They took the unselect committee that, investigated stuff. It found out that we were right on everything. They burned all the information because we were right on everything. Nancy Pelosi knew. I told her, I said, I'll give you 10,000 troops, January 6th. I'll give you 10,000 troops if you'd like. No, we don't want them. Oh, well, they found out that was true. They found out it was true. They burned everything. And Biden gave them a pardon. He gave these people in the committee, Congress people, he gave them a pardon.
Everything he said there was a lie. It is a fabricated conspiracy theory that was created by Donald Trump and his acolytes. That they found that everything Donald Trump said was true, so they burned. None of that is true. That Donald Trump, he begged, oh, Nancy Pelosi, please take 10,000 National Guard troops, please. I thought you were the president of the United States of America, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the military. Why would you need Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi's permission, Donald Trump? Aren't you an all-powerful ruler who can do whatever he wants? After all, you have an Article 2. Donald Trump is insistent upon inciting violence in this country at the hands of, and I'm going to get to it in subsequent videos, militias are at the ready. The 1,600 member militia that Donald Trump pardoned that attempted to overthrow the government once, they're ready. They're champing at the bit for their opportunity to serve the dear leader, to create vigilante squads, to ride on buses and metros, to keep the public safe, quote unquote, to maintain law and order. And Donald Trump's here for it. Remember, I couldn't care less, he says. And he couldn't. There is not a way for him to care any less about the safety and security, about the rule of law, because it's about his interest. And as long as he is raking in billions of dollars while being president of the United States, oligarch in chief, and the minions, the morons, the Stuart Rhodes, that he's going to protect us, the fucking yokel who shot his own eye out. Great. Fantastic. I like that guy's on the case. Anyway, we are in very tenuous times. And I tell you what, this isn't just to tack on a criticism of Democratic leaders, not you, not me, but leaders. We need an opposition party. We need people, leaders in Congress, to step up, to stand out, to do more than fire off tersely worded emails and letters to the president. We need action on the part of our political leaders. It can't fall only to the citizenry. We don't have the power that we have given elected leaders to do something. This is a direct call, please, an appeal to Hakeem Jeffries, to Chuck Schumer. I don't think they're up to the task. Maybe that's where I'll leave you. What do you think?
Does that seem extreme to you? It doesn't seem irrational to me, because our blood has been all over the streets for a long time. And until someone dies, they don't give a shit.
Speaking of radicals who are attempting to incite fear, trepidation, nervousness, violence, it's not just Donald Trump. It flows down, of course. The rot comes from the head. Steven Crowder and Megyn Kelly were together, criminals in action, on his show. The same disgusting Steven Crowder. Did I say Stephen Miller earlier? I got Stephen Miller on the brain. We're going to read a tweet from his either today or tomorrow. Nightmare. But Steven Crowder, the man who disgustingly mocked the murder of George Floyd, did a reenactment where he had somebody on his neck and acted like it was no big deal and then started choking out. He's a joke, just a sickening joke, an abuser of his wife, just a fucking clown. He's just a freak show in 2025. And Megyn Kelly, no better, an absolute cash grab. She took her $60 million from NBC after she got fired for insisting that everyone should go for Halloween in blackface. Just gross, every single one of these people. And they teamed up for an episode of whoever's show. And Steven Crowder went into this insane soliloquy about blood in the streets. I'm not calling for blood in the streets. I'm not calling for it. I'm just saying, I get it, he says. They want violence. We don't even know. We may know the name of the shooter right now, Tyler Robinson, 22 of Utah. That's who they're saying it is right now. We don't know. Can we trust the FBI? Can we trust Kash Patel and Dan Bongino? Are they to be trusted? Are they credible authorities? No, they're not. They're feckless. They're stupid. They're lacking in ability at a very serious job in a very serious time. But we don't know anything about what the motivations of the shooter were. For all we know, the shooter is a QAnon adherent who is angry that Charlie Kirk stopped talking about the Epstein files. That could very well be the case. We don't know. We just don't know. But for them, it's they. It's this nebulous, shadowy group that they're certain of, even though there's no evidence of anything. And they're going to call for violence based on that nebulousness, on that uncertainty. He's going to justify blood in the streets. Watch this moment from Steven Crowder and Megyn Kelly.
5 years ago, if someone were to say, you know what? And again, I've been very clear before you came on the show, not condoning, not supporting violence of any, just going out, not. But 5 years ago, if someone said, man, it looks like it's blood in the streets time and we really have to, I would have been, whoa, that's a little bit sharp. That's a little radical. In not supporting and not condoning it today, when someone says it seems like there's blood in the streets and it's inevitable, I go, you know what? There are other ways, but I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Does that seem extreme to you? It doesn't seem irrational to me. Because our blood has been all over the streets for a long time. And until someone dies, they don't give a shit. They excuse it.
I know you're not rooting for it, and I'm not rooting for it either. You're saying, as a practical matter, wouldn't that be the next logical thing to expect, given how angry the right is, how victimized the right has been? I mean, truly, the left loves to play the victim. They love it when they're not. They invent fake ailments, disorders, etc., and claim victimization of white privilege and white anti-black racism all the time when it doesn't exist. We actually are being victimized. There's no other word for what happened to Charlie Kirk yesterday.
Hunted.
He was hunted, and they victimized his beautiful wife and their beautiful children and all of us who loved him and his message. That's actual victimization, a word I hate, but it happens to apply here. But they don't see it. They don't see it.
She didn't even look uncomfortable with that talk. She certainly didn't push back against it. She wants to be a credible journalist. Megyn Kelly, the journalist. As Steven Crowder says, I'm not advocating blood in the streets, and I'm certainly not supporting it, wink, wink. But you know what? I get it, he says. This is where we are with the right wing in American politics today. Every single Democratic leader, every single prominent commentator that I've seen, even not prominent commentator that I've seen, including myself, has said there is no place for violence in American politics. No place. This is wrong. We need to stop. Let's bring down the temperature. When a Democrat is assassinated and her husband is assassinated just weeks ago in Minnesota, Democrats are outraged. Republicans are either silent or they make their fucking jokes, minimizing what took place, acting as though the evangelical missionary, the conservative, the right-wing nutter, that he's some kind of a leftist. They lie, like Jesus would. And then when a Republican faces the same outcome, Democrats also, again, outraged. Republicans, it's the left. Before any knowledge is known of anything, before any evidence has been obtained about anything. In fact, the FBI and the ATF start putting out insane anti-trans to endanger an already endangered community in this country, globally, saying that there were trans ideology markings on the ammunition, which is just from the manufacturer. arrows and letters to indicate the caliber and the manufacturer and the location and the experts at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms don't know about engraving on ammunition. The FBI, which is led by a dipshit conspiracy theorist with no experience in law enforcement whatsoever, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino, the podcaster. This is what you get when you put unqualified extremists in charge of positions of importance. People who stoked violence in their previous positions. People who still stoke violence. And why would they not when the dear leader does it himself? Why would Steven Crowder not do what he's doing when Donald Trump, well, the prez is doing it. Why not me too? Megyn Kelly, with all her fake hair and fake nonsense. Why not? Donald Trump's doing it. Who's going to criticize me when the president of the United States is also doing it? This is why. We'll leave it there. I work real hard. Sometimes I fail from getting in trouble. Anyway, I love and appreciate you. I want your opinions on this. I invite you to this conversation. Absolutely. You can comment below. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. Or of course, you can email me the old-fashioned way, daily@dollemore.com. Please sound off. I do want to hear from you. If you appreciate this work and you want to help support this channel, support independent media. And if I am a member of the independent media that you respect or that I bring you value on some way, please consider $2 a month. You can become a channel member here on YouTube, or you can go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt and support there. $2 a month. I'd appreciate it very much. It goes a long way. If I'm able to marshal the size of this audience and 1% were to help support, we could fundamentally grow. We could add hosts. There's just a number of different things that I have in mind that we could do if not for the funding. Anyway, $2 goes a long, long way. It's just hypocrisy. It's the native tongue of conservatives. Hypocrisy. The predictable pattern has begun. In the wake of an absolutely horrific event where Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Donald Trump is capitalizing on this moment, which signals to the militias and the radical right wing and the violent base that it's okay for them to also radicalize and talk about violence. I talked about what Donald Trump said on Fox News this morning. I talked about what Steven Crowder and Megyn Kelly talked about in a video. And now we're going to talk about not only the militia groups, the organized militia groups that have membership, that have been pardoned by Donald Trump for their attempt to overthrow the United States government on January 6, 2021. But they are now coordinating with one another to start vigilante groups. I'm going to read like 4 paragraphs from this Mother Jones article, and then I'm going to show you that this bleeds out into the mainstream Republicans. I've got 2 clips from people who posted videos online that are disturbing. They're stupid. Both of these individuals are just fucking morons, but they have intent. They are animated to action based on conspiracy theory, based on nebulous theys and yous before they know anything about the motivations of the individual who we now are being told is someone named Tyler Robinson, 22 of Utah. But they didn't know that when they posted these videos. This is the headline written by, the headline probably wasn't written by Kiara Butler and Julianne McShane, but this is the Mother Jones headline. Pardoned insurrectionists are using Charlie Kirk's death to call for civil war. Charlie Kirk's assassination pulled me out of retirement. More work must be done. In the aftermath of Wednesday's assassination of right-wing youth leader Charlie Kirk, in the midst of more sober calls for mourning and moderation, many far-right influencers quickly began to call for revenge against the left, whom they blame for Kirk's death. They did so even though the shooter still has not been identified, nor their motivations revealed. But it's not just random individuals circulating such violent fantasies. Leaders of prominent extremist groups and pardoned insurrectionists have issued calls to their networks to seek revenge. In an email to Mother Jones, Devin Burkhart, executive director of the Extremism Research Group Institute for Research and Education on Human Rights, expressed his concern that reactions to Kirk's death could, quote, energize the far right to intensify political violence from street clashes and armed paramilitarism to calls for racist terror. We have witnessed the carnage that has been brought by the 3%ers, by the Proud Boys, by the Oath Keepers, Stuart Rhodes, again, the steely-eyed warrior, since he has an eye patch. Did you know that not Charlie Kirk, did you know that Stuart Rhodes shot his own eye out? He's such a proficient administrator of rounds down range that he shot his own fucking eye out. This is the guy who wants to patrol the streets and keep us safe. Great. Consider the message from Stuart Rhodes, one-eyed founder of the Oath Keepers militia group, who was sentenced to 18 years in prison for seditious conspiracy, by the way, was his charge. 18 years in prison for his role in leading the Capitol insurrection on January 6, 2021, before being pardoned by President Donald Trump in January, along with nearly 1,600 others. I don't know. This is just me in my head. I would assume that Mother Jones did their due diligence. I think his sentence was commuted. I think it was a commutation. I don't think he was a full pardon, unconditional pardon. But somebody fact check me. You can let me know in the comments. Along with nearly 1,600 others. On Wednesday, he said on Alex Jones's InfoWars podcast that he would be restarting his organization in the wake of Kirk's killing. Quote, I'm going to be rebuilding Oath Keepers, Rhodes said, and we will be doing protection again. The group never formally disbanded, but has receded from the spotlight after their leader's conviction. Quote, one thing we will be doing is public protection of patriots again, like we used to. It's incredibly necessary, Rhodes added. I'm sure the Proud Boys will agree. If we have to, we'll go and ride the train again, just like the Guardian Angels did. He was referring to the New York City vigilante group Republican mayoral candidate Curtis Sliwa started in 1979. Again, are you going to feel safe on the metro here in Washington, D.C., or wherever Stuart Rhodes is, the cyclops of a man who shot his own eye out because he's so lacking in proficiency or concern or safety with safety protocols, or the negligent discharge of a round into his own fucking head? Great. I'll feel very safe with Stuart Rhodes again on the case. Now look, this trickles down. There are people who follow, either in spirit or literally follow the posts, follow the attitudes, follow the action of the Oath Keepers, of the 3%ers, of these boogaloo terrorists, of the Proud Boys. And we are seeing that all over the internet. I'm going to show you this right now. This is Robin and Bat Dog, a person who appears to be, they're dressed, maybe it's just cosplay. I don't know if they're actually attached to some police department. But if he is, this is a cop who's in uniform talking about the left and you've woken a sleeping giant and all of these weird attitudes that he's talking about. Blaming the left, blaming Democrats, blaming liberals for something he has zero evidence of. Is this the kind of acumen he brings to the job of peace officer? Does he go into his job where he is supposed to serve and protect, having spewing conspiracy theories about Joe Biden pooping his pants in front of the Pope, something that didn't happen? Does he take his marching orders from internet weirdos who create conspiracies out of whole cloth? It appears so. Watch Robin and Bat Dog from TikTok.
You know, I told myself I wasn't going to make this video, but I'm going to make it. You know, when Joe Biden was falling upstairs and falling downstairs and falling off of his bike and crapping his pants in public, in front of the Pope, no less, sure, we poked a little bit of fun at him because it was embarrassing for us as a country. And then when he was diagnosed with cancer, I don't remember seeing a single conservative Republican wishing him to be unalived. But yet, you fucking liberals try to assassinate our president when he was running for office again. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And then you go after and assassinate this young man with a wife and 2 children simply because of his values and his religious beliefs. And also the fact that he was a shit-hot debater and you really stood no chance if you were on the opposing side with him. He was well-read, he was well-educated, he was self-educated. Like he openly stated, he never went to college. He was just a high school graduate. And he made something for himself. And in the last 20 minutes, I have seen nothing but hate and spew vomit come out of liberals' mouths all over social media. Elated and happy that Charlie was assassinated simply because of his beliefs. Y'all just definitely opened up a can of worms you're going to wish to Christ that you freaking never even touched. Sick of this shit.
You know, this, I don't know, what is with our culture or social media culture? What compels some, this is very akin to people who go and they've got their camera. This is my battery, but they set their camera on a is this even in frame? I can't even tell. They set their camera on a tripod and then they record themselves crying just to display to the world how upset they are about whatever thing, rather than just being sad and cry. It's like, oh, no, wait, pause the tears. I got to get this on camera. We got to log this for the internet. This needs to be set in stone for posterity's sake. That's what this guy just did. You know, I told myself I wasn't going to make this video, but I'm going to make it. You did, huh? You had to get these gems out into the ether, huh? Robin and Bat Dog, Officer Robin and fucking Bat Dog. You had to get it out there. I'm going to post it anyway. The world needs to know the genius that I'm getting ready to spew. And then you proceed to lie, or at the very least spread conspiracy theories, things that did not happen about Joe Biden. And then your warped understanding of what the right brought against Joe Biden. When he got cancer, nobody said anything. We were all concerned about the president, blah, blah, blah. Do you live in reality, brother? But yet you fucking liberals, he says, don't bleep this, Chris, but you fucking liberals try to assassinate our president when he was running for office. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. There was one assassination attempt at Donald Trump. One. And it was not one of you fucking liberals, as you so quaintly put it. It was a registered Republican, sir. If you had actually paid attention to the news and not gotten your news from TikTok, maybe you'd know that. If you weren't such an idiot, an addled moron in your brain, a weak-minded rube, you would know that. The second assassination attempt wasn't a shot wasn't even taken. Donald Trump wasn't even in view. A guy was apprehended hiding out on the golf course, also a Republican. And there was no third assassination attempt, dipshit. You're lathering yourself up for no reason, based on conspiracy theory. Y'all, whoever y'all is, we still don't even know, at this very moment, don't know the motivations of the shooter. We don't know, but apparently Robin and Bat Dog does. Y'all just definitely opened up a can of worms. You're going to wish to Christ that you freaking never even touched. What can of worms did Wall open up? What can of worms? This wasn't a coordinated effort. This wasn't, oh yeah, he took his orders from the top. Yet, they will find any excuse for violence. They will follow the lead of the dear leader at the top, Donald Trump, which trickles down to the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, and he will feel justified in the violence that he inflicts on his fellow citizens. Imagine this guy on the beat, who apparently has a canine, trained, vicious animal at his behest that he can dispatch to harm people. Tell me again about, just a couple of bad apples. No, it is not. Let's look at Ryan Curtis 269 on TikTok. Again, TikTok, just a lovely platform, apparently, replete with conspiracy theorists and threatening violence dipshits. Get a load of this, goober.
Let me just put it out here clear. If any of you are making videos on what just happened and him passing away, fuck you. I swear to God, if you guys want to start it, start it. Pretty much what you just did was start it. So be on the lookout. Watch behind your shoulders. I swear to God, this is not the time you guys want to be walking the fucking earth with pink hair and attitudes. Go do your LGBTQ queer ass, whatever the fuck you gotta do. March your fucking lines, but now you just crossed it. And it's not gonna be good for you. You just took out an amazing fucking person. A father, a husband, a son. The next time somebody decides they want to defend themselves or kill or do this to somebody, I'm gonna cheer it on the entire time. Let's fucking go. If you're supporting that, if you want to do it, right and left wing, let's fucking do it then. Next time one of you motherfuckers are running up on a police officer or somebody else and end up getting killed, just like the rooster, I'm gonna be crowing every fucking morning. Yes!
I mean, it's incomprehensibly stupid, first of all. Starts off with a very threatening tone, threatening people with pink hair and I don't even know. But you better be on the lookout. Watch behind your shoulders. Watch behind your shoulders, says Ryan Curtis. It just struck me, he's trying to be ominous. Ryan Curtis is trying to be intimidating. Wow. The next time somebody decides they want to defend themselves or kill or do this to somebody, I'm going to cheer it on the entire... That's your threat? You're going to be someone who cheers it on? You're going to be crowing every morning? Great segue, though. Lucky that the chicken made noise. Fantastic. Look, obviously this guy is less of a threat, certainly rhetorically, than others. But the fact remains, look, yesterday I played a bunch of videos of people who are out there rabble-rousing, to say the least, but also pose a danger to their individual communities because they're so whipped up on conspiracy. They're so convinced of something they have no evidence of that they will commit violence. A mob in Idaho yesterday attacked a dude for allegedly something he said about Charlie Kirk. So the people, this is beautiful. This just struck me. The same people who are acting as though Charlie Kirk, they brought violence against him just for the things that he said, are also the same people who are bringing violence against people for things they say. So apparently, it's a wild double standard. Violence can be brought against anybody for the things they say if it's a conservative on a liberal. But if a liberal says something, if a conservative gets harmed, oh my God, this is outrageous. What about the freedom of speech, y'all? It's just hypocrisy. It's the native tongue of conservatives. Hypocrisy.
We have actually more power in D.C. because it's, I can change the mayor if I want. I can do whatever I want.
Just like groceries, the new term that Donald Trump just invented, he has created a new theory of American jurisprudence. He calls it the quick trial. It's amazing to me. When I was on the Nazi Twitter, before it was the Nazi Twitter, all these conservatives who talk about, I'm a constitutionalist. I was just in Idaho. Like I had COVID for a week, kind of lost a whole week, several days just gone, vanished. But the week before that, I was in Idaho and I saw dipshits driving around in the back of their trucks. They've got flags and eagles and we the people in giant script on their trucks. And they act like they have some fealty, some loyalty, some duty to, some honor, some oath to the Constitution. But it is clear on a daily basis that these fucking morons don't know anything about the Constitution. They have zero knowledge about what the processes were to create this document, to compile the concepts within it. That our founders, for all of their faults, for all of their violation of human rights and ownership of human beings as property, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, so many others, that they were brilliant men who, many of them spoke like ancient, like Greek and the classical languages. And they understood philosophy at its root basis levels. They understood democracy and different forms of democracy. And we landed on the constitutional republic, which is a form of democracy. Conservative dipshits, they still don't even understand that. And in it, they enshrined in the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution a right to a speedy trial. Or the new term that Donald Trump, just like groceries, Donald Trump, he calls it the quick trial, as though it's something he just came up with. Anyway, let me show you this clip, and then we're going to go in, because really what Donald Trump is doing is wanting to refashion our judicial system on what China has going on. He's bragging about and giving examples of how they do it in China, the same country that we oppose, our mortal enemy, according to Donald Trump. But he wants to model his dictatorial reign off a dictatorial system where they don't have freedom of expression. They don't have freedom like we have it here. Watch Donald Trump invent the concept of the speedy trial.
He did to her was unbelievable. And then he walks through, the knife is dripping blood and everything else. One thing I say, we have to have quick trials.
Yeah.
I call it quick trial, because in China, they do have quick trials, They don't wait 6 years and
you
claim
start
all
off guilty
sorts
and
of
you end up
reason.
guilty in China.
Oh, it's terrible. What happens here is you go through 7, 8 years, and by the time it ends, and then they say, well, he had a reason to do it because he wasn't treated right in grade school, and it's his teacher's fault, and it's the government's fault. That guy they should have a trial the following day, as far as.
But do you know that they say?
I mean, when you have somebody on tape, here's a guy on tape getting ready to, and then he did his thing. The whole thing is on tape. This should not be going on. This trial will go on. It'll start in 2, 3, 4 years. We have to have, in certain places that do it differently, they have what's called quick trial.
One, let me get this out of the way before I get into the Sixth Amendment very briefly. It's not going to be a constitutional lesson here, but if we had a system where you have the trial the very next day, Donald Trump would be absolutely down the river, or whatever the phrase is, because he would have been found guilty of absconding with national security secrets that were top secret when he had no authority to declassify them. He would have been absolutely convicted for his role in the insurrection against the country, his attempted, just like he would have been treated like Jair Bolsonaro is in Brazil right now, who just got found guilty. They know how to deal with their traitors in other countries. We had Merrick Garland, an ocean of difference between how we deal with things here, apparently. Joe Biden really shit the bed by appointing Merrick Garland as the Attorney General. But let's get to Donald Trump. I call it the quick trial. The quick trial. This is the Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed. Speedy and public trial. That's the Sixth Amendment. It's a core, fundamental principle in American jurisprudence. Donald Trump didn't come up with I call it the quick trial. The founders, the people who framed our government, who founded this country, they already called it something, and they called it the speedy trial, Donald Trump. This was all, by the way, in a discussion about the further invasion of American cities by the United States military. Just like Donald Trump has done here in the city in which I live, Washington, D.C. He has invaded the United States Capitol with the National Guard, with armed now military troops. They are occupying the city. I mean, some of them are just walking around picking up trash away from their actual jobs as teachers and managers at retail stores. But, it's very important that they clean up around the White House. And he starts listing the cities that he's looking at invading, starting with Memphis, Tennessee.
What's going to happen?
So I think maybe I'll be the first to say it right now again. We're going to Memphis. Memphis is
That's the next city.
Deeply troubled. And the mayor is happy. He's a Democrat mayor. The mayor is happy. And the governor, Tennessee, the governor is happy. Deeply troubled. We're going to fix that just like we did Washington. I would have preferred going to Chicago. I had a man the head of a big railroad. They're doing a merger, and he wanted to come see me and all that stuff. And I asked him, because, it's one of the largest train companies, maybe the largest, so you can figure out who it is. Okay, Union Pacific. And he was in my office, and he started off 45 years ago with the railroad. It's such a great story. Sir, I'm a railroader. That's the kind of guy that should ride it, as opposed to a Wall Street guy that destroys the railroad, but he's good financially, right? And he was a very impressive guy. And I said, so what do you think? Where should we go next as a city? Because we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and then we'll do a few at a time. But we're going to straighten out the crime in these cities. He said, sir, Memphis would be good because he's on the board of FedEx. He said, when I walk 1 block to my hotel, they won't allow me to do it. They put me in an armored vehicle with bulletproof glass to take me 1 block. He said, it's so terrible. I said, let me ask you a question. So we're going to Memphis. I'm just announcing that now, and we'll straighten that out.
National Guard?
The National Guard and anybody else we need. And by the way, we'll bring in the military, too, if we need it. But National Guard. But Memphis is, look, it's a great music city. It's, home of Elvis and everything else.
Look, I'll say the same thing I've said about D.C., the same thing I've said about this entire nonsense plan of Donald Trump. One, it is against the law. It violates the Posse Comitatus Act. The Posse Comitatus Act. You cannot use law enforcement. You cannot use the United States military as law enforcement within the borders of the United States. Full stop. It's just not an option. So they have a workaround because they've got a bunch of lawyers who are like, well, they're not really doing law enforcement. They're just backing up law enforcement. They're just there to support and protect federal facilities. That's how you can have mass troops invade and occupy a city. It's for intimidation. And Donald Trump is champing at the bit for an incident where a troop murders a citizen. He just cannot wait for that because there will be unrest if that happens. Even if Memphis was deeply troubled, as he says, it is not. But even if it was, it does not justify military occupation of an American city. As Donald Trump puts AI slop generated memes of him as the Robert Duvall character from Apocalypse Now, talking about a declaration of war against an American city. Chicago in that case, which is where this conversation led. He's listing cities that he's getting ready to invade. It went from Memphis, and then he briefly talked about Chicago before again shifting to Washington, D.C.
What happened? I can fix Chicago, much bigger than D.C., but we can bring in the military, we can bring in the National Guard, we'll do what we have to do. You know, the people in D.C. are so happy. They bring coffee to the National Guard.
Mr. President, now the 30 days is up. And does everything, is everything...
Well, the mayor's asked us to stay.
Well, how do you...
So we have a Democrat mayor who's asked us to stay. And D.C.'s a little bit different because I could federalize it if I want. You know, D.C.'s a little bit different. So we have a lot. We have actually more power in D.C. because it's, you know, I can change the mayor if I want. I can do whatever I want. I haven't had to. We've had a great relationship with the mayor. We've had a great relationship. Everybody's happy.
And all of this, did you hear that? All of this is based on the fact that we'll play it again. We'll just play it again. Donald Trump thinks I can do whatever I want.
I could federalize it if I want. You know, D.C.'s a little bit different. So we have a lot. We have actually more power in D.C. because it's, you know, I can change the mayor if I want. I can do whatever I want.
That isn't true. There are very defined restrictions on Donald Trump. He is not a king. Look, there's getting ready to be another No Kings protest. I believe next month, Brittany Page and I are going to be out of the country on vacation, a very much needed vacation. I'll announce who's going to be guest hosting for me in a little bit, or in a few days. But I'm bummed that this is when that protest is going to be. I would advise, I would recommend, I would encourage you to take part in that because Donald Trump thinks he's a king. I can do whatever I want, says a democratically elected public servant. You're a servant, Donald Trump, a public servant. You are not a king. You are not an emperor. You are not the leader of my cult, brother, because I am not a member of one. I serve no man. I serve no God. We need a little bit, whatever that phrase is, that saying is about becoming ungovernable. We need a lot more of that attitude in this country. It used to be the attitude that I was raised under, to be ungovernable. This libertarian idea of individualism and that the government's overreach. And now they've just stretched their necks out for the boot of tyranny. Welcoming it. Please, please, Trump. Please, Daddy Trump. Step on my neck, Daddy. Again, Republican eroticism. I know I bang the drum, but it just gets more and more clear every single day. Become ungovernable.
Some of the American left are undoubtedly well-meaning people, but their ideology is pure evil. They hate the good, the truth, and the beautiful, and embrace the evil, the false, and the ugly.
In the immediate aftermath of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, many people, including myself, talked about the fact that they're going to try to turn this guy into a martyr. This racist, Christian nationalist bigot, they want to be on the masthead. They want him to be a martyr, and they're going to. They're trying to. It happened at breakneck speed. It happened. And yesterday on the floor of the House of Representatives of these United States, the People's House, our temple of democracy, a congressman, Republican, of course, from Missouri, Bob Onder, made a 3-minute and 42-second speech. I'm not going to torture you with 3 minutes and 42 seconds. But he set this in stone and in motion, the martyrdom of Charlie Kirk, invoking religion, lying about his own faith, about the history of characters in the Bible. It starts off, we're going to get into a whole bunch of weird shit here. This guy is either just a stone liar, or he's a dumb shit, or he's just willingly bastardizing his faith to suit the needs of conservatism in order to martyr Charlie Kirk. Again, the racist, Christian nationalist bigot. It begins with him telling a story about how a priest sent him some scriptures about, and he's comparing Charlie Kirk to John the Baptist in the Bible. And he says John the Baptist was murdered by the government, which is true, but murdered for Christ, for refusing to deny Christ, which is just ahistorical, for one. John the Baptist, to my understanding of it, and I'm not a scholar, I know more about the Bible than this dipshit does. John the Baptist was killed because he was critical of the marriage of like two people in the house of Herod or something like that. Jesus died years and years and years and years after John the Baptist. Jesus hadn't even officially started his ministry yet. John the Baptist he's not like Peter who denied Christ. It's just a twisting. It's a retelling. It's a reimagining. It's like fucking fan fiction of the Bible or something. This is a sitting United States congressman taking time out of the people's business to talk about Charlie Kirk, comparing him to big biblical figures. Very weird, very wild, and there's an intent that they're going to. There's an outcome that they want. And we'll talk about that on the other side.
But Charlie was also a martyr for Jesus Christ. A priest friend of mine sent me this short passage from St. Bede, referring to John the Baptist. There is no doubt that Blessed John suffered imprisonment and chains as a witness to our Redeemer, whose forerunner he was, and gave his life for him. His persecutor demanded not that John should deny Christ, but only that he should keep silent about the truth. Nevertheless, he died for Christ. Does Christ not say, I am the truth? Therefore, John shed his blood for the truth. Surely he died for Christ. Charlie also died as he was answering a question about the transgender cult that has gripped so much of our society and destroyed the life and health of so many of our young people. They couldn't stand for that, so they killed Charlie, martyr for the truth and for Christ. Well, what for us? Well, everything has changed. If we didn't know it already, there is no longer any middle ground. Some of the American left are undoubtedly well-meaning people, but their ideology is pure evil. They hate the good, the truth, and the beautiful, and embrace the evil, the false, and the ugly. And they literally will kill those with whom they disagree, just as their predecessor leftists, Marx and Stalin and Lenin and Pol Pot and Fidel Castro did. We must know that. And we must stand firm, and we must win this twilight struggle. They killed Charlie, but as Tertullian wrote in the 2nd century, when the church was very much persecuted, the blood of martyrs is the seed of the church. May God raise up thousands of Charlie Kirks to take his place.
That's what they want. That is what they want. The blood of martyrs is the seed of the church. May God raise up thousands of Charlie Kirks to take his place, to my fellow warriors in this fight. You too can give your blood, which is the seed of the church. Do your honor and your duty to your God. just like Charlie Kirk, who sacrificed himself for Christ. Look, I played video of Charlie Kirk yesterday. I started with videos of Charlie Kirk, so we didn't get it twisted about what he believed, what he stood for, and he didn't stand for the principles of Jesus the Christ. He stood for segregation. He stood for stoning people who were born gay to death. He stood for black women, if they gain any prominence, if they attain any station or position in our country, they stole it from a capable, qualified white man. That's what he stood. Those are things he said. I'm not even fucking paraphrasing some of that stuff. He was not a man of God. He was not a man after God's own heart. He did not embody or communicate the principles and the philosophies of Jesus. He was a racist patriot who bastardized his Christianity, who lied to millions, a generation of American youth about the founding of this country, that it was letter for letter based on Deuteronomy, which is just fantasy. He didn't deserve to die. It is tragic that he's dead at the hands of political violence. I'm using my words very carefully here, by the way. Again, I'll say, like I said yesterday, I'm not sad. I didn't cry. I'm not emotional about Charlie Kirk not being with us anymore. I'm sad for the state of the country. I'm sad for the violence that will likely come from this. But for this congressman, if we didn't know it already, there is no longer any middle ground, the congressman says, with no evidence of even who the shooter was or what the shooter's motivations were. Some on the American left are undoubtedly well-meaning, but their ideology, that means me, that means you, your ideology, he says, smugly, confidently, ignorantly, their ideology is pure evil. They hate the good, all the good that Charlie Kirk stood for that I just talked about, all that. Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a mistake. It was a mistake to provide, under color of law, equality for black Americans. That's a mistake, he said. Black people had it better in the 1940s than they have it now. He said that. That's the good and the truth and the beautiful that Charlie Kirk represented. This martyr, the blood, the seed of the church. And we embrace the evil, the false, and the ugly. Equality, equity, inclusion, diversity, equal protection under the law, actually serving the Constitution of the United States, actually living up to my oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That is evil, that is wrong, that is false, and that is ugly, according to Bob Onder from Missouri, trying to whip the base into a violent frenzy, telling them that if they martyr themselves, if they are one of the thousands of people that God will raise up to replace Charlie Kirk, their blood will be the seed of the church. Dangerous shit here. Vile, divisive shit here from a sitting member of the House of Representatives of these United States. You, sir, should be fucking ashamed of yourself, lying about your sacred holy texts, misleading the public about what it is you believe, and lying about things you know nothing about. Otherwise, other words known as, a Republican. He's a Republican. A liar, a hypocrite, a conspiracy theorist, and just a dumb shit. Because truth does not matter when you've got conspiracy theories. Who cares about evidence? About empiricism? Who cares about any of that, right? If you live in Bob Onder's district, I'd love to hear from you. You can comment below. Anybody else? You can also comment below. You can call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I would love to hear from you. Please consider supporting this work. First of all, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. I don't say that enough. Everybody talks about please subscribe, and it's important to do so. I don't know why I don't. But please, it's free to subscribe. Click the subscribe button below. And if you want to take that support to the next level for $2 a month, you can click the join button below this video on YouTube to become a channel member, or click on over to Patreon and go to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. It's not just for the podcast. It absolutely supports this work too. I love and appreciate you very much. I hope you have a great weekend. Stay safe. Take care of practice self-care this weekend. Put your phone down a little bit. Don't watch the news 24/7. It is not healthy. Take care of yourself. Be genuine and take care of one another.